Welcome to the channel. If you're following along with our journey, this is video number 2 in our full Active Directory lab series. In the first video, we successfully laid the foundation. We set up our domain controller, configured core services like DNS and DHCP, and successfully joined our Windows 11 client to the domain, which was mydomain.com. Now that we have the foundation ready, it's time to build the internal structure and the security system of Active Directory. Today, we're diving deep into two critical components: organizational units, also known as OUs, and security groups. These are the essential building blocks for organizing your network resources efficiently, delegating administrative control safely, controlling who can access what on your network. In this video, I'll walk you through the theoretical knowledge covering what an OU is and what a security group is, and the fundamental differences between them. But as always, we won't just stop at theory. Following the presentation, we're going to head back into our lab environment for a couple hands-on exercises. We're going to first create a functional OU hierarchy based on location and function. Number two, set up security groups and use them to manage access to shared folders. And number three, demonstrate how to safely delegate administrative controls to an HR user so they can manage their own team's passwords without getting access to sensitive IT groups. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the concepts, but you'll have the practical skills to implement the structure and security into your own Active Directory domain. If that sounds good, let's
Us.
get started.
Before we talk about how we organize Active Directory, let's make sure we understand what it actually is and why it matters. Active Directory, or AD as it's known, is basically the control center of a Windows network. It keeps track of all the users, computers, and resources, and it's the system that decides who can do what within it. An easy way to picture it is to think of AD as the brain of your organization's network. It manages everyone's identity, enforces the security rules, and handle permissions. Anytime you log in, open a shared folder, access a printer, or get denied, Active Directory is the one making that call. To actually manage everything in the network, Active Directory uses something called an object. In AD, almost everything you interact with is an object. Users, computers, printers, groups, even organizational units are objects. They're just container objects that hold other items. Each object has its own set of details or properties. For example, a user has a name, a department, and a login. A computer has a hostname and a model. When you're working in Active Directory, most of the time you're really just changing these properties or managing how the objects relate to each other. So now that we understand what Active Directory is and what its building blocks are, the objects, let's move on to how Active Directory organizes and secures everything with organizational units and security groups. Let's start with the OU. An organizational unit is basically a container in Active Directory that helps you organize your users, computers, and other objects. You can think of it like a folder structure inside your domain. This structure matters for two big reasons. It keeps your large environments manageable and it lets you target policies exactly where you need to go. Imagine if your entire domain only had one giant folder with every user, every computer, every service account, and every group thrown into it. It would be total chaos. You'd have no way to separate departments, no way to apply different policies, and no way to manage permissions cleanly. OUs fix that. They give your domain a clean, logical layout. They're also the containers where you link group policy objects, so any GPO you create only affects the users or computers inside that OU. And on top of that, OUs let you safely delegate administrative tasks, which is a critical security concept we'll cover next. The primary purpose of an OU is to prevent your domain from becoming one giant messy list. Without OUs, every user and computer is in one flat container, which quickly becomes unmanageable. OUs allow us to organize users and computers efficiently by department or location. They enable us to delegate control safely, for example, giving the HR administrator power over only HR user accounts. And they ensure you can Apply group policy objects at exactly the correct organizational level, keeping the policies clean and targeted. Here is a common structure for a multi site company. We start with the top level OUs for our locations, which is New York, California, and Florida. Then, within each location, we create sub OUs to separate object types like users, computers, groups, service accounts, and IT. This structure means that an admin from California office can be delegated control over only the California OUs, and a computer policy meant for only New York computers won't affect anything in California. It keeps things tidy and targeted. Imagine having all your objects in one folder. It would be chaos trying to assign policies. When you open the Active Directory's Users and Computers console, you'll notice two types of containers: the default system containers and the custom organizational units you create. Active Directory installs several built in containers by default, such as users, computers, built in, foreign security principles, system, and lost and found. These appear as plain yellow folders. They are system protected, which means you cannot link group policy objects to them, and you cannot delegate administrative control over them. In contrast, your custom OUs use a different icon, a yellow folder with a small book overlay. This visual difference matters. Unlike the default containers, OUs can have GPOs linked to them, and you can delegate administrative control. That flexibility is why you build your own OU structure instead of relying on default containers. We've built our organizational units. Think of them as clearly labeled rooms in a large building. Now we need to decide who gets keys to which room. That process is called delegation. It lets us give a user or group specific administrative tasks, limited only to the OU they're responsible for. This slide shows delegation being applied to the HROU. Delegation enforces the principle of least privilege. It's simple. No one gets more access than they absolutely need. Just like you wouldn't hand out a building master key when someone only needs to open one door, we restrict access to prevent unnecessary risk. In the lab, we'll demonstrate this by giving a user in the New York HROU permission to reset passwords, but for only for the accounts that are inside the HROU. Delegation lets you hand off everyday administrative tasks to people who should handle them while keeping the domain secure. Moving on, security groups are the other half of the access equation. A security group is a collection of users, computers, or other groups used to manage permissions to resources. Security groups are the primary tool for access control. They are used to grant access to folders, printers, and applications. They are powerful because they simplify permission management. Instead of assigning permissions to 100 individual users, you manage the group's access once, and all the members inherit that access. The main types we encounter are global, domain local, and universal. We'll come back to this in a second. When we talk about security groups in Active Directory, we're really talking about two major jobs they perform. The first job is signing user rights. The rights define what a user is allowed to do on a computer or across the domain. Think of them as a user's system capabilities. These rights answer questions like: can this person shut down the server? Can they log on as a service? Can they use remote desktop? Windows includes many built in security groups that already have these rights applied. For example, domain admins have full control of the domain, while remote desktop users only have the right to connect through RDP. If they need very specific rights, like giving a team only the ability to reboot a server, you don't elevate them to full admin. Instead, you create a custom security group and assign that one right through group policy. The second job is assigning permissions. This is different from user rights. Permissions control who can access a shared folder, file, or resource, and what they can do with it. This is where you choose the level of access: read only, write, change, or full control. For example, look at the screenshot on the right. We're assigning shared permissions to a folder. Here, the domain users group is selected. They're given full read access while change and full control are denied. Using a security group, whether something built in like domain users or a custom security group like sales team, makes access easy to manage Anyone added to the group automatically gets the assigned permissions, and anyone removed loses them. When creating a new security group, you have three options for its scope. By default, global is checked right out of the box, and that's generally what we'll be using. However, I want to briefly explain the difference between the three for your full understanding. As a quick reference for our lab, remember, we only have one domain, which is our forest root domain. A domain local group is specifically created to apply permissions to resources only within its local domain. Its membership is very flexible. It can contain users and groups from any domain in the forest. The key takeaway is that this group can only be assigned to a resource within the group's local domain. A global group is used to contain users, computers, and groups who share the same job role, but they must all come from the same domain where the group was created. Despite its limited membership, this group can be assigned permissions to any resource in any domain across the entire Active Directory forest. A universal group can accept members and groups from any domain within the forest. Like the global group, it can also be assigned to any resource located in any domain throughout the forest. As you're looking at the table, there's really only one similarity between OUs and security groups. Both can be used for delegation, meaning you can grant limited administrative tasks. But aside from that one overlap, their roles are totally different. Here's the big difference: group policy and access. The OU is your structure, it's the container where you apply configuration. If you want desktop settings, security policies, or software installs to take effect, you link the GPO to the OU. A security group, on the other hand, is all about access. It's a security identity that you use to grant permissions like access to a shared folder, an application, or printer. And importantly, security groups cannot apply group policy. So here's the rule to remember: OUs organize and receive policies, security groups control access to resources. Together, they're the two sides of how Active Directory is administered. Now that we've covered the theory, we'll see it in action in our hands on lab. Lab is structured to immediately apply the concept of organization, delegation, and access control. We'll start by creating our full locations OUs and sub OUs, our logical containers to structure our domain, which is mydomain.com. Next, we'll populate those OUs with users and security groups we'll be using throughout the exercise. The most important security steps will be to demonstrate admin delegation for HR, where we'll safely grant a user the ability to manage passwords for their department. And finally, we'll test group based access to a shared folder to see the security groups locking down that resource. This lab will show you exactly how to build a scalable and secure Active Directory environment.
All right, we've covered the fundamental technical knowledge behind OUs and security groups in the previous portion. Now it's time to stop looking at the slides and put that knowledge into practice. This is the hands on lab portion where we build it out. Hey everyone, if you got your Windows Server environment ready, like we did in the last video, you're looking good. Now we're going to dive straight into the technical heart of Active Directory, which is building the structure. We're going to focus on organizational units and security groups today. Think of OUs like our digital floor plan for our entire domain, which we named it mydomain.com. We're going to organize everything based on three major locations: New York, California, and Florida. Inside these locations, we'll keep things super clean by establishing dedicated sub OUs for managing distinct object types like users, IT, HR, and so on. The structure will directly enable us to do two really powerful real world skills that we need to master. The first of them being the delegation of administration. We're going to show how to assign the least privilege by giving the HR admin in New York the specific right to reset passwords for their people within that department and only their people. They won't have access to touch a single thing in the IT department or any other OU. The second thing we'll be covering is access control. We'll wrap things up by setting up a shared network resource and using a dedicated security group to lock it down. We'll prove that only the right users can access that shared folder. Now, before we open Active Directory users and computers and start building, let's quickly confirm our environment is ready to go. You'll need three essential things set up. First, you'll need Windows Server running. Crucially, it must have Active Directory domain services installed and be promoted to a domain controller. This is the machine that hosts our entire domain. The second thing we'll need is a Windows client machine. That's a regular desktop, and it's joined to our domain. We'll use this client later to test our security rules and verify that our delegation actually works. And finally, need to make sure we have Active Directory users and computers console installed, open, and ready to go. That's our main graphical tool for everything we're about to do. If you're looking at the setup right now and you aren't sure how to get to any of those prerequisites configured, don't worry. I've linked my previous video in the description below where I walk you through installing Windows Server, configuring Active Directory domain services, and promoting the server to a domain controller. Pause the video if you need to catch up. Once you're ready, hit play and let's jump straight into step one, creating our top level location OUs. All right, let's start with step one, building our core foundation. The very first thing we need to do is organize our entire Active Directory domain by location. This is absolutely critical for managing permissions and applying group policies later on. In fact, this lab is modeled after a company I used to work for that used location based structure because it made managing permissions a lot easier. The locations we're working with today are New York, California, and Florida. We're going to use our main tool, which is Active Directory users and computers, because that's our console and our access to changing everything in the directory. First thing that we're going to do on Server Manager is go to Tools, and we're going to go to Active Directory users and computers. I'm going to go ahead and expand this to make it easier to view. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our first OU. We're going to right click mydomain.com. We're going to go add an organizational unit, and we're going to type in New York. After you've done that, we'll click OK, and we'll do the same thing, and we'll add California. And the next, we'll add Florida. Click OK. With our three top level OUs in place, it's time for step two, which is creating our sub OUs. We need a consistent structure under every single location to keep our domain manageable and logically separate objects. This is where we break down what goes where. If you look on the screen, each of our locations will have a users OU, a computers, a groups, a service account, IT, and HR OU underneath each location. I'll walk you through setting up the structure under New York first, and then challenge you to complete the rest. We're going to go ahead and right click New York and click New and go down to Organizational Unit. This is what we're going to be entering in users, and we'll click OK. Next thing we're going to do is right click New York again, click New, and choose Organizational Unit, and this time we'll do computers. Click it again, and this time we're going to make an OU called groups. The next OU that we'll do is service accounts. Click OK. This OU will be for IT, and the last OU will be HR. Once you've finished New York, your screen should look something like this. Now for your challenge. Pause the video right here. Go ahead and repeat those 6 sub OU creations under both the California and Florida location OUs. You want their structures to look identical to New York, including the dedicated HR OU. Unpause when you're done, and we'll move on to populating these OUs with our sample user accounts in step 3. After adding all the other sub OUs, I did forget the HR OUs for both California and Florida. I'll go back later in the video and add those. All right, our structure is looking solid. We've got our top level location OUs and our sub OUs in place. Now it's time for step 3, creating and placing our sample user accounts. This step is straightforward. We're going to create all 12 user accounts and make sure they land in the right department OUs for their location. I'll keep this step on the computer to help us keep us on task. For the first user, we're going to right click IT for New York and go down to users. And our first user that we're going to be adding is John Smith. We're going to add his first and last name in the respected fields. For the username, we'll use the same format as our lab video prior, the first initial of the first name and the last name in all lower capitalization. So in this example, it'd be J Smith, and we'll click next. And we're going to enter in our standard password we've been using in our lab, which is password1 with a capital P. And make sure we check passwords never expire. After entering that, push enter and finish, and we added our first user. We'll right click it again, new, and click user. And the next user that we're going to be adding is Sarah Johnson of the IT OU. And it'll be S Johnson. After entering that username, we'll go ahead and click next and do the same thing. Enter in our default password and click next and finish. Next thing we're going to do for the New York OU is create our HR OU users. So we'll right click HR and go down to users and type in Emily Davis and enter in her username, E Davis. Click next. Enter our default password. Click next and finish. The next one we'll be adding will be Michael Brown. And for his username will be M Brown. Click next. Click our password never expires and finish it off with entering our default password for the user. We'll click next and finish. And now we come to this screen. We've entered in both our IT and HR OU sample users. Now we'll do the same for California and Florida, but obviously we forgot to add the HR OU to both California and Florida, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. Let's go ahead and right click California, go to new, and we'll choose new organizational unit, and we'll just do HR. We'll click OK, and we'll do the same for Florida. At this point, we're back on track and we can start adding our sample users to the OUs under each of these locations. Go ahead and right click IT under California and go to new user. First user we'll add, it will be David Wilson. And the username will be D Wilson. After that, we'll go ahead and click next. Make sure we click password never expires and enter our default password. Click next and finish. Then we'll add our next IT user, which will be Laura Martinez. L Martinez for the username. Click next. Enter the password. And after that, we'll click next and finish. And we'll go ahead and right click HR under California, go to new and click user. And we'll enter in Jennifer Lee. J Lee for the username. We'll click next, enter our password for her. Then we'll click next and finish. Next up, we'll make our additional HROU user, which will be Brian Garcia. Username B Garcia. Click Next and enter our default password. And we'll click Next and Finish. We'll go down to Florida and right click IT and add our first user there. This will be Kevin Thomas, K Thomas, and we'll enter our default password and click Password Never Expires. After that, we'll click Next and Finish, and we'll make our second IT user under Florida be Rachel Moore, or Moore will be the username. We'll click Next, choose Password Never Expires, and click Next and Finish. Follow that up by making our first HR user for Florida, and that will be Megan Taylor. M. Taylor will be the username. Click Next, change it to Password Never Expires. We'll click Next and Finish. Last but not least, we'll add our final HR user to Florida. That'll be Daniel Anderson. D. Anderson will be the username. Click Next. And go ahead and enter that default password form. And click Next and Finish. Our structure is now complete, and all 12 of our sample users are placed exactly where they need to be. We're going to be moving on from building the containers, the OUs, to creating the objects, the users. Now we're going to be moving on to step 4, which is security groups. Think of the OUs as where things live, and security groups as the keys to the kingdom. We don't manage permissions for 12 individual users. We manage permissions for a few groups, which makes our job more scalable and efficient. This is a fundamental concept in Active Directory administration. We're going to create several groups and drop the appropriate users into them. All of these groups are going to be going into the groups OU under the respective locations. So let's go ahead and make our first security group. We'll go to New York, go to groups and click new and click group. We're going to make our first group, which is New York all users. We'll click OK. We'll click groups again. We'll right click it, click group, and we'll make New York underscore IT underscore admins. We'll click OK. And then we'll go ahead and make our last group for New York, which will be New York HR staff, and click OK. Now that we've created all 3 of our groups, let's go ahead and assign the users to the groups. We'll go ahead and right click our first group, which is New York all users, and then go to properties. Then we'll click members and click add. We'll type in our first name, which is John Smith. Click enter and OK. We'll click add again, and we'll add Sarah Johnson. Push enter. Then we'll click add again, and we'll add Emily Davis. Click check names. That's usually the proper way because you'll have multiple people with the same first names. And then we'll enter in Michael Brown, and we'll click OK. So now we've added our 4 users to the New York all users. And we'll go to the next group, which is the New York IT admin, and we'll add our 2 users there. The first one's going to be John Smith, and the second user is going to be Sarah Johnson. Go ahead and click OK, or apply and OK. And then we'll right click New York HR staff, Go to members and we'll click and enter Emily Davis as the first user. Check the name, add her, and then we'll go to Michael Brown, add him. So if we look at our groups, we've added our 4 users to that. Go to the HR staff, New York, and we'll see that we've added our 2 users there, Emily and Michael, and the New York IT admin. Look at the members here one last time. We got John Smith and Sarah Johnson, just like our diagram. And then we'll go to California and set up our groups. We'll right click groups here and click new and click groups. And we'll type in California all users. We'll make our next group, which will be California IT admins. And then we'll go ahead and assign our users. We'll do California all users. We'll go to properties of the group, go to members, and we'll add David Wilson first. We'll add the next user, which will be Laura Martinez, then Jennifer Lee, and Brian Garcia. Go ahead and click OK, and we'll go to California IT admins, go to properties and members. We'll add David Wilson here. Click add another user and Laura Martinez. Go back to California all users and just check that we added all 4, which we did. And let's look at California IT admins. And we look at the members and we have the 2, just like we see in the diagram. We'll go down to Florida and we're going to create a group, which will be Florida all users. And we'll go ahead and make our last security group in that OU, and it would be Florida IT admins. We'll go ahead and add our users to the Florida all users. The first one would be Kevin Thomas. Add another user, it'd be Rachel Moore, and add the third user, which would be Megan Taylor, and the fourth, which will be Daniel Anderson. We'll go down and click OK. And then we'll add our users to the Florida IT admin. First user will be Kevin Thomas, and we'll add Rachel Moore. So now that we've added that, we'll just double check, make sure our groups are set up like they should. Go to properties, and we look at the members. Those 4 match what we were supposed to have. And we'll click OK, and we'll go down to Florida IT admin and do the same. And we have Kevin Thomas and Rachel Moore, so everything looks good. We have successfully completed our foundational steps. We've built our lab structure with organizational units. We've populated our OUs with objects such as users, and now we're going to be moving on to step 5, which is our delegation of control. We're going to apply our security concept, specifically the principle of least privilege. We're going to be granting Emily Davis, one of our HR users, the ability to reset passwords for her HR colleagues. This is a critical application of principle of least privilege because she is not an IT administrator, yet she requires this one specific delegated task. We're going to give her the exact right she needs, no more, no less, thereby ensuring minimal access and limiting the potential security impact. We're going to head over to Active Directory users and computers, and we're going to head over to the New York OU, and we're going to right click our HR OU. This is the OU that we're going to be delegating a user or group the ability to have control over for a specific task. So if we right click HR here, we're going to click delegate control and click next. This is where we're going to choose the user or group that we're going to give control to. In this case, we're just going to go with Emily. We'll check the name since there's only one user with the name Emily. We'll click OK and click next. In this step, this is going to be choosing the tasks that we're going to be giving her the ability to do on the. So we're going to click reset user passwords and force password changes at next login and click next. Then finish. Now to test this out, we're going to head over to Emily's computer. Now that we're at Emily's computer, we're going to install a tool called RSAT, which is Remote Service Administrator Tools, which is going to let her communicate with the domain controller remotely rather than having her log onto the domain controller directly. So, in order to install this tool, we're going to head over to the Start menu, click on that. We'll click Settings, head over to the Apps. We'll go to Optional Features and click View Features. So here we don't see anything. This is because Emily is just a domain user, is not an admin, so she doesn't have the ability to add these additional features. So a way to get around this is let's go cancel, click out of here. We're gonna go to the search bar and go to PowerShell. We're gonna right click PowerShell and run it as an administrator. This is where we're gonna enter our domain admin username and password. Once we have logged in with our domain admin account, we're going to enter in a command. I'll post it in the description below of this video, and this is going to automatically download the tools that we need. Now that the tool has been downloaded, we don't need to restart it. All we have to do is go ahead and click out of PowerShell. We'll head down to our Start menu, click on that. We'll go to All Apps. We'll scroll down all the way to the bottom, and we're going to click on Windows Tools. And this is where we're going to click on Active Directory Users and Computers, which was installed with that RSAT tools. And if we go here, this is going to look just like how it did on our domain controller. We're going to go to New York and we're going to test it out that we assigned Emily control over resetting passwords for the HROU. So let's go ahead and try resetting the password for Michael Brown. We'll right click his name, click reset. This is where we're going to enter in a password form. This is a temporary password. We'll notify him what the password is, and then once he enters it, he'll have to reset it to his own. We'll click OK, and the password has been changed. Now we're going to try resetting a password for someone outside of the HR and see what it says. We'll go ahead and try John Smith. Right click him, reset password. And after we do that, it's going to give us an error because we don't have that privilege. We've successfully delegated control with Emily without giving her access to other parts of the domain. Now we're going to be moving on to step 6, where we secure a shared file using security groups. Now in step 6, we're going to create a shared folder and give access to a security group to be able to access it on the network. In order to start this, we're going to need to go down to our File Explorer. We'll go down to our local C drive, and we're going to create our folder. And we'll name it New York HR Share. We'll go ahead and open this, and we'll go ahead and put a document inside. We'll click on text document, and we'll just name it test. We'll go out to our local C drive, and let's go ahead and right click our folder, and we'll click properties and go to the sharing tab. The sharing tab is going to be for making this available on our network to for other computers to see. Go ahead to advanced sharing. We'll click share this folder. You could change the folder name right here if you wanted to. We're going to keep it the same. Our permissions, we're going to change this. We're going to remove everyone, and we're going to add our New York HR. Type in that, and we'll add New York underscore HR underscore staff to it. We'll click OK, and we'll apply there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to security, and we're going to look at the group of users that have access to this, and I want to remove domain users. So we're going to go to edit and remove. Okay. To get around that, we'll go to advanced, and we're going to click disable inheritance. And here I will remove them, and we'll click apply and OK. Now we're going to go ahead and edit, and we're going to add that security group, that New York. Go to the staff and add them and click OK. Click apply and OK. In a future video, I'm going to be going over what sharing and security are. There are two different ways of setting permissions for folders. The sharing, in layman's terms, lets you be able to share a folder or document over the network, and you can assign it permissions there. But then you have security, which has more granular control, and you can have more options of what you can allow the user or group to do with it. Okay, so after we've created that and we've now assigned a security group, let's log in with Emily, who is part of that HR security group, and see if she can access that shared folder. We are logged in on Emily's computer, so we're going to test to see if she has access to that shared folder. So we'll head down to File Explorer, and up here, we're going to type in backslash DC backslash, and this is going to be the share name, which will be New York HR share, and we can see that we're in it, and that we can see our test document that we put inside of it. Now let's log in with a user that is not permitted and see what it tells us. Now logged in with John Smith, who is part of the IT OU, and let's go see what it shows when we try accessing that shared folder. We'll do the same thing, backslash DC backslash New York HR share, and let's click OK. And now it's giving us a network error because we do not have permission, and that if we do, we need to contact our network administrator. Now, this wraps up our lab. We've accomplished quite a bit, building our domain structure with OUs, filling them with user objects, and demonstrating how delegation of control works. We've also covered how to share a folder, and assign access permission. These are two key security concepts that you should understand, and they're essential for keeping our domain safe and secure. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.